The court is now ready to render its decision on the case of People of the Philippines versus Eleanor Joy Nambong, who is charged with the crime of murder and kidnapping under Article 267 of the Revised Penal Code as amended. The court has reviewed the decision of the Court of Appeals dated June 15, 2000, which affirmed the conviction of the petitioner by the Regional Court of Manila, Branch 3 in criminal case number 143244. The prosecution has presented evidence that the defendant, together with other armed persons, participated in the murder and kidnapping of Pedro Pinduco on February 17, 1989 in the city of Valenzuela. The defendant and her cohorts abducted Pedro Pinduco from the fast food restaurant and demanded a ransom of 20 million pesos from his family. They later transferred him to a jeepney where he was eventually found dead with gunshot wounds after an armed encounter with the police operatives. The defense has argued that the defendant was not involved in the murder and kidnapping, but a mere bystander who was caught by crossfire. The defense also claimed that the defendant was tortured and coerced to confess her involvement in the crime. The court has carefully weighed the evidences and testimonies of both parties. The court finds the prosecution has established the guilt of defendant beyond reasonable doubt. The court rejects the defendant's alibi and denial, which are not supported by any credible evidence. The court also finds no merit in defense claim of torture and coercion, which was not traced during the preliminary investigation or the trial. The court therefore convicts the defendants of the crime of murder and kidnapping and sentences her to suffer the penalty of reclusion perpetua.
No! 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 This can't happen! No!
The court also orders the defendant to pay a fine of 1 million pesos as well as the civil damages to the heirs of Pedro Pinduco. The court hereby orders the clerk of court to issue an entry of judgment stating the date when this decision became final and executory. The court renders this decision in accordance with Article 8, Section 14 of the Constitution, Rule 45 of the Rules of Court, and the pertinent jurisprudence on the crime of murder and kidnapping. So ordered.
Help me, Attorney Garcia. Please. Please help me. Please.
Executive clemency is an act of mercy or leniency from certain consequences of a criminal conviction and exercised by the President after receipt of a recommendation from the Board of Pardons and Parole. Under the criminal justice system, executive clemency is the act by an executive member of government by extending mercy to a convicted individual. Article 7, Section 9 of the 1987 Constitution provides that, except in cases of impeachment or otherwise provided in this Constitution, the President may grant reprieves, commutations, and pardons and remit fines and forfeitures after conviction by final judgment. He shall also have the power to grant amnesty with the concurrence of a majority of all the members of the Congress. As to the nature, pardon is a private act of the President, while amnesty is a public act, therefore is subject to judicial notice. As to effect, pardon is an act of forgiveness, and it looks forward and relieves the offender of the consequences of his action, but the offender still have to pay for the civil damages, while amnesty is an act of forgetfulness, and it looks backward and puts the offense into oblivion.
Am I eligible for pardon, Attorney?
Well, not yet, Mrs. Nambong. You can avail conditional pardon if you already serve at least half of the maximum prison term imposed to you by the court. But if you already serve your maximum sentence or granted final release and discharge or court termination of probation, you may apply for absolute pardon. Every action has consequences, Mrs. Nambong. Your future is in your hands.
Life is like a game of chess. Every move you make has consequences. And every choice you make can change the course of your destiny. Sometimes you may face challenges, and obstacles that test your skills and strategies. Sometimes you may feel trapped and hopeless with no way out. Mrs. Nambong, your journey from rebellion to reconciliation is commendable, but the nation needs reassurance. What tangible steps have you taken towards peace?
Madam President, I've been in the ground, working with communities, fostering dialogue. I've seen the pain in people's eye, and I want to be a part of healing those wounds.
President Pangandaman, Mrs. Nambong's efforts have been sincere. The people are cautiously optimistic about the prospect of reconciliation.
Advisor Bilbao, I need more than just cautious optimism. We need to ensure that this is not just a political move.
Madam, I've visited school, spoken to families torn apart by conflict. I've devoted myself to understanding their pain, their needs. I don't just want redemption for myself. I want to be a catalyst for rebuilding.
President Pangandaman, Nambong has been instrumental in developing community initiatives. She's not just talking, she's actively participating in the healing process.
Today, we take a step toward healing. Eleanor Joy Nambong, once a symbol of division, has shown us that redemption is possible. Our path forward is not without challenges, but together, we shall build a nation where forgiveness is strength and not a weakness.
Article 7, Section 18 of 1987 Constitution provides that except in cases of impeachment or as otherwise provided in this Constitution, the President may grant reprieves, commutations, and pardons, and remit fines and forfeitures. After conviction by final judgment, he shall also have the power to grant amnesty with the concurrence of majority of all the members of the Congress.
Executive clemency is a very important and controversial topic, especially in the Philippines, where there are many cases of human rights violations and political prisoners.
Some famous personalities who were granted of absolute pardon were Robin Padilla, convicted for illegal possession of firearms in 1994, granted absolute pardon by Fidel V. Ramos in 1997. Joseph Estrada, former president deposed in the Second EDSA Revolution in 2001, convicted of plunder, granted pardon by Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. And Joseph Scott Pemberton, American military personnel convicted for the homicide of transgender woman Jennifer Laude in 2014, granted absolute pardon by Rodrigo Duterte in 2016.
While some people granted with conditional pardon who are not well known to the people are Emeterio Antalan, Ricardo Sulangon, Joel Ramada, Apolonio Barado, Jose Navarro, Generoso Rolida, Arnolfo Buates, Monalito Matricio, Josue Amsud, and Sonny Marvilla, political prisoner and NDFP consultant, charged with various crimes. Granted conditional pardon by Rodrigo Duterte. Martin Villanueva, Bonifacio Suyon, Dindo Absalon, Enrico Budina, convicted rebels and farmers. Granted conditional pardon by Rodrigo Duterte in 2016.
Some may argue that the president is biased in granting pardon to certain individuals or groups, while others may defend the president's prerogative and discretion. The president's pardoning power also has a significant social and legal implications, as it can lead to public discourse and controversy. The power to pardon serves as a tool for social justice, but it can also be viewed as a political tool if not exercised judiciously. The president may face public scrutiny as well as moral and ethical considerations when granting pardon to certain individuals or groups.
Life is like a chess. The future is in your hands. And this is President's Gambit, Stories Behind Executive Clemency.